Welcome to the Prep Sports Network's Coaches Show. I'm Brian Stanley. With me, head coach of your Mission Prep Royals, David Schuster. Coach, a great week coming out of Week 10 football here on the Central Coast. You got the CIF playoffs coming up. You won the Ocean League crown, as you can see by the logo behind me, Coach. You took the city crown by knocking off San Luis Obispo for the first time in the school's history of 92 years of competition in 8 meetings now, or 7 meetings total between these two squads. Coach, talk about this week and how big it was.
There's just no way to accurately fully reflect what the feeling was, just running out as soon as we came running out, onto the stadium. The crowd was absolutely electric. It was certainly the loudest I've ever heard our crowd, and there's natural energy between SLO and Mission, and so for us to finally compete, and I was just so proud of the way our kids handled the week and the way they kind of handled all the preparation for it. We really kind of went light, because I will tell you, man, I'm so thrilled and so excited with the way our kids operate. They say every team is a reflection of their coaches, their coaching staff, and our coaching staff, we're pretty hard, we're pretty intense, and our team kind of reflects that, where there's just a real natural physicality that our kids have, and they're very naturally intense, and I really felt like the way our kids operated kind of overwhelmed SLO a little bit. And that's kind of been the case all year. I don't think people understand how strong we are, how physical we are, especially at the point of attack. And that was very refreshing to see. You always want to go into a rivalry game and really kind of establish control and a certain dominance. And we felt very much in that first quarter, second quarter, that we did that. And we had complete, it was 21-0 pretty quickly. And we were in control of the game and the situation pretty much the entire game, and that was exactly where we wanted to be. And SLO does a lot of things very well. They're very dynamic, and they're coached by a great coach. I think very highly of Pat, and I'm sure if Pat and I were at different schools, he and I'd probably get along a lot better. He's a great dude, and he's a good coach. But I also know that our kids really and you're supposed to want to feel this way. There's a lot of energy towards, we wanted to be dominant against SLO, and obviously we wanted to win the Ocean League, and we wanted, like, everything that came with it. It was the kids were for better for worse, I think they were kind of ignorant of all the magnitude of the game. And we didn't really reinforce it a whole lot during the week, because it just kind of felt like that's actually probably better for them. And the more they thought about it, the bigger the game gets, and the bigger you get, and the more high pressure you feel. I wanted them to get out there and compete and do their job, and then enjoy the environment that they were in. And I felt like they did that. And it was just an awesome night for Mission Prep and our community, and for the football program in general. It really just kind of established who we are and what we feel like we have as a program. And I've been telling anybody who will listen, at this point, you can't really deny our program anymore. You can't deny who we are. We feel that we're one of the premier programs on the Central Coast, and it's always been this, but you haven't played SLO. But you haven't played this team. It's like, well, we have now, and we've established ourselves pretty clear at this point, and we're pretty thrilled, pretty happy about
it. And this is your second league title in your tenure at Mission Prep, your first an 8-man title in 2018, another undefeated season, 10-0 that year. And you went on to a streak of a 13-0 to win the 8-man Central Section Championship. So maybe that's foreshadowing what happens this year. We don't know, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's talk about the offensive side of the ball, Coach. Kobe White, near perfect in his throwing, 8 for 9, 170 yards. And his primary target was J.J. Howard, 109 yards on 4 catches. And he had that big run, or that big catch up the middle, and almost took it to the barn, but was caught up down in the red zone with a shoestring tackle.
Yeah, I just I was extremely really happy with the way JJ operated. He came out with great energy. Colby was lacing it in pregame. Just felt like he had a great feel for the ball and where he wanted that thing to go. He had complete control and command of the huddle, and was putting everybody in the right spot. You know, a couple different situations where he's you know, we had a couple different plays that we put in this week, and he fully understood it. And he's done this repeatedly throughout the year, where he's just kind of coaching everybody up on where they got to go, just I felt like he finally had a game where you know, we've had a couple of games where, you know, kids drop balls and it's kind of affected, you know, like from a stat standpoint, you want, when you throw the ball, man, you want the ball completed and you want Colby to have that completion,
Yeah.
and you want the receiver to catch it. And I was happy that when we did throw the ball, it was for big yards. It had major impacts, and Colby was putting it in a great spot, and the kids were competitive and going up and getting it. And that's everything you want to see out of it. You know, and same thing in the run game. When we run the football, we want it to be physically taxing on the defense. And maybe we only get a yard or two, but you know, like the fact that you have to consistently stop our run game, and you got to work through, in some case, you know, you're watching the linebackers having to work through 3-4 blockers to get to our running back. At some point, that's just going to physically wear you out. And so the fact that everyone's consistently doing their job and doing it at a high level in a very high intensity environment with just a lot of different things going on, a lot of distractions, that just, again, kind of gets back to very happy with the preparation, very happy with the way they operated, and just felt very, very proud of the team.
And then you talk about the run game. The run game was tremendous. Drew Harrigan, 16 carries for 170 yards, and Jack Susank, 15 carries for 108 yards. Both with 100-yard games. Is Drew Harrigan the heir to the throne after Jack Susank next year?
I mean, Drew's very special. I'm never going to say something like that, just because we have a number of young men who can really get the job done. And you know, we have a goal as a coaching staff and as an offense. Every year we would love to have 2,000-yard backs every year. Because it says something about the team and the offensive line, and the program as a whole, when you have two young men who can all get to 1,000 yards. I don't know if we're going to get that this year. It'd be pretty difficult. We'd have to play several more games, and Drew would have to really have a couple more games like this. We could have, I think, if we wanted to blow the score out and go stat wise with a couple of other games, we could have done that. We chose not to. Drew is a high-level young man, and he's doing some special stuff, and he's going to have he's going to have a huge role in this program every single year moving forward. There's no question. But the reality for us is we have a lot of kids playing multiple positions. Jack Susank plays multiple positions. Drew Harrigan, and right now he's playing both linebacker and running back. And George Kardashian's another young man that, you know, he's really factoring in heavily. Jacob Butler's a kid that hasn't gotten a whole lot of carries, but man, when he does run with the ball, he looks really, really good. So there's a lot of different factors here, but we do like to, you know, try to highlight two young men every year, and I think there's no question this year it's Jack and Drew, and George is kind of the change up. And so, you know, I think if we get two young men rushing for 1,000 yards, it just says something about the team that, you know, if you had one kid rush for 2,000, and we've had that before, Brian Coval, and rightfully so, because he was, you know, it didn't matter how many times you gave him the ball, he was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But there was something kind of special about when both he and Dalton got 1,000 yards that highlighted how good our offensive line was and how good the program was. That I just kind of feel is a little bit more telling and just feel special.
And speaking of players who play multiple positions, the Loera brothers. This week, Mario Loera was our Mama Leah's Pizzeria player of the game. Last week, it was his brother David. So we got the Loera double shot going on here to close out the regular season. This is a young set of twins that are going to be around the program for a couple more years as well, that are doing a tremendous job in impacting the program in very positive ways. Talk about Mario's performance this week and just the overall impact these two together have.
I could not be more proud and thankful and excited for the Lemoore twins. The Lemoore family in general they've been major advocates and supporters of us in this program, and they bought in on me when we were still technically 8-man, and saw the vision that I have, and believed it. And man, I gotta tell you, those kids play relentless football, and most people are not wired to handle their physicality. And I'll tell you something crazy about the Lueras. They were going both ways as freshmen, and most people don't know that they were both starting on our offensive line, and they were both starting on D line and linebacker as freshmen, going both ways. And I mean, you couldn't dream up a better scenario for a coach to have freshmen who are as big and as strong as they are, who are going both ways. And they really sustained us in that, that transition year from 8 to 11. And we needed a couple of kids to kind of fill in different spots. Those two young men stepped up and really filled that role and did an incredible job. And really battled and competed, and they got worked over a little bit sometimes because they're freshmen, but you could really just see their toughness and their strength and their mental toughness and their capacity to handle tough moments and to handle chaos. And they've just gotten significantly better every year, where now it's like it's junior year and these two are taking over games, and people don't realize just how physically dominant they are, and well, people are feeling it. They've been throwing down on a few people. Both of them had a couple shots in the slow game that just very much, hey, we're asserting dominance here, we're in control. And Mario's play as an outside linebacker, I saw something I haven't seen in quite some time, and that is that they are double teaming. They're taking receivers and double teaming our outside linebacker. They're all trying to get to Mario to block Mario, because Mario constantly blows up any play on the perimeter. And so anytime anyone's going on the perimeter towards his side, everyone either runs away from him, or when they do run to his side, they're now starting to double team him with receivers, and they're leaving the corner alone. And that's a very, very telling statement. You don't ever see that, or you rarely ever see that, where they're going, hey, that outside linebacker is so good. Anything to the perimeter, we got to double team that kid. And so I'm so proud of both of them, so thankful that they're here. They continue to be special representations of our program. They're great kids in the classroom, high-level kids in every way. They're tone setters. They set the culture for us. They'll be leaders for us next year as seniors. And, boy, I mean, their impact is very special in this program.
And coming up this Friday on the pregame show, the Sunset Honda pregame show, we will be announcing the Mama Leah's Pizzeria Player of the Year. So you're going to want to tune in for the pregame show live from Lemoore High School in the city of Lemoore on prepsportsnetworks.com. We'll be announcing that, so you want to tune in. It's going to be exciting news. And then I want to thank our sponsor, Central City Motorsports, home of AutoFlex Air Ride Suspensions. Give them a call, 805-345-3080, or visit them at centralcitymotorsports.com. They've been a sponsor of the Coaches Show all season long, and they're going to ride with us all the way through the playoffs. Wrapping up fun for heavy-duty excitement is what they do over there. And, Coach, we're off to the playoffs. Got the number 10 seed in Division 2. You're going up against the number 7 seed, the Lemoore Tigers. 8-2 team, 4-1, coming out of the West Yosemite League, picking up the league title there. Coach, how do you feel about this matchup and your seeding in the playoffs?
The matchup I'm very excited about. This team has a side to them. They're very much, they've gotten very high level, but it's kind of natural for everybody. They really do rise to the competition. And so when we've had tough competition, they really elevate their game. And Lemoore is by far the most athletic team we've played all year. No one else is even close. They've got dudes across the board. There are some opportunities for us to take advantage of some things that we feel pretty excited about. But there's no question their quarterback can move the ball. He's extremely athletic. They've got a huge offensive and defensive line. And so, it really feels very much like, hey, our kids are going to be challenged on the one thing that's been more than anything else this year that's been our huge strength is our offensive and defensive line has been so good. And they're playing a team that can kind of match them. And that's going to be an awesome challenge. And I can't wait to see how our kids respond to it. And especially with so much on the line, it's like, man, hey, you don't get the first down, that season might be over. And so it cranks up a level of pressure and chaos that I feel like our kids are well prepared for. But again, you never know until you're actually in it. And so they're good. They're well coached. They are very physical. They're very athletic. It's an exciting matchup. The one thing I will say with this is I'm a little bit disappointed with the seedings in that, just make us the number 8 seed or something. But this team, an undefeated league champ, absolutely deserves at least one home game in playoffs. They certainly earned it. And some of the other seedings that ended up, some local teams, there's a local team here that hasn't won a single game, that is in D6 with a huge population in the school that has a first round bye. And that one to me makes really no sense. I'm struggling with that one a little bit, where I'm just kind of going, how is it that that's going to be acceptable, but a league champ doesn't get a single home game, potentially, unless there's an upset somewhere. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm kind of struggling with it, and I have no business calling it out. People have had no business calling it out on us, in the past as well. I just, I'm excited to be in D2. Like, we're not upset about our playoff bracket. This is where we want to be. We want to compete. We
Yeah.
want to be as high as we can go. We want to be in the highest league possible. That we've got high ambitions in this program. It's not a problem for us. And the matchup with Lemoore is really exciting. They're a great team. And it sets up, potentially, man, if we win, there's a decent chance that we're going to be playing, a school that, just 3 years ago was in the same conversation with Corona Centennial and De La Salle and Mater Dei. Like, Bakersfield High School has a name and a reputation that matches any of those major programs in the state. And the idea of, like, boy, competing with that team, you couldn't dream up a tougher but better scenario for us and for this team. And that's exciting to me. And that's exciting to our players. That's what they want to do. But I also do wish that, the community had at least one game where they could all sit there and go, hey, we watched the playoff game with this team. As good as this team is, everybody got to see one at home. That one, and I will also say, kind of on behalf of Dos Palos, who's also in D2, they went undefeated. They're a league champ. And that one, I got to be honest, Dos Palos probably shouldn't even be in D2. They really should be D3, and they should be hosting a home game. They should be one of the top seeds in D3. And I feel like they deserve, probably more so than us, they deserve a much better seed and a much better playoff bracket than the one that they were given. And it seems like you are de-incentivizing success, and you are actively promoting failure by, giving teams who are having losing seasons or not even winning games and giving them just dream playoff brackets and scenarios, and actively putting smaller teams and smaller schools in a bracket that doesn't make any sense. It makes sense for us. We have a great team this year, and it doesn't bother me. But Dos Palos, Strathmore, being in D3, I'm just kind of going like, man, those ones I'm struggling with a little bit. So I'd like to see some changes coming. And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. It seems like there's a lot of people who are kind of questioning how this thing, how it came together this way. And I think there'll probably be some changes with this. I will also say we could not be more excited about the bracket and the competition that we're in. And if there was ever a team from Mission Prep that could compete in the D2 bracket, this is the team. So I'm excited to see what happens.
And speaking of that matchup, Coach, it's going to be live on PrepSportsNetworks.com this Friday, 7 p.m. kickoff. You talked about the lineman matchup. Lemoore brings a set of linemen that rival some D1 programs in size and stature, something that you guys haven't really seen this season. How do you compare to that? Because you're not bringing 6'5", 300-pounders. So how do you compete with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. The reality is, we've had a couple kids, like we play a team where they got one or two kids like that, not necessarily 4 or 5, but really it's the same thing across the board for football, man. It's technique and angles, and who's got, usually that first step is extremely, well, not usually, that first step on the offensive line is the most important step in football by far. And if we can get our first steps down quicker, and we can get our second step down quicker than they can, and we can engage with a better pad level than they can, that will oftentimes negate some advantages that they might have in speed and size. So, and there's also a willingness, on our part to be extremely physical at the point of attack. I would say probably the perfect example of this, Antonio Silva, a lineman we had a couple years ago, one of the baddest dudes I've ever coached in my entire life. And I've been coaching for 12 years. Antonio Silva was undersized in every single game he played. I think he was senior year, he was 6 foot 205. And we had 4 different programs walk up after each game and tell us, hey, we game plan specifically for 52 because that dude is crazy. And there's something about, if you can get your first 2 steps in the ground faster than everybody else, if you can get hands on somebody else, if you can engage with somebody else, the reality is football is still a combat sport, and there's a basic rule in combat. Hey, man, when you got nowhere else to go, throw the first punch and get after somebody and make them make a decision about how much they really want to engage with you. And they might, and Lemoore might turn around and just go, hey, yeah, we're sitting here, we're ready to fight, and we're ready to throw down. And then you got a great matchup, and then you got a great game. And but it's why we run the scheme we run. This is the biggest line we've had for a long time, but we are consistently undersized in almost every year, or almost every year, honestly, with this year being the exception. And the technique doesn't change, though. We still want to get after it. We want to be super physical at the point of attack. And you know what? To be honest, if they are better than us, and if they're stronger than us, and they can engage with us at that level, then they deserve to win. And there's nothing that we can really do to change that, because football is still won between A and D gap. And so if they are able to control the gaps like that and do some stuff to us that we haven't been able to, that we can't stop, then they deserve to win the game. And I think I'd be willing to walk off the field going, man, they were stronger than us, faster than us, and they threw down just as much as we did. And they matched our intensity, and we couldn't top it. And they're the better team, and up to this point, most teams have not been willing to do that. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. That's the result. And we're going to see what happens this Friday, 7 p.m. on PrepSportsNetworks.com. Your Mission Prep Royals at the Lemoore Tigers, a number 10 seed versus a number 7 seed in Division II. Undefeated 9-0 Royals at 8-2 Tigers. Coach, second attempt to tame the Tigers back-to-back weeks. You've done it once. Tigers seem to be the protocol here this time around, this time of year. So we're going to go tiger hunting once again. See if we can catch Tiger by his toe. That's what we do around here. That's how Royals do. They catch tigers by their toes.
Toes? I thought it was tails.
That old nursery rhyme, catch a tiger by its toe.
I don't know the nursery rhyme. Sorry.
I don't know. I'm making stuff up at this point. Show's over. This Friday. Any last words, Coach?
All good, man. We're ready to compete. We're ready to get after it. And this is a great bracket full of great teams. And we're excited to be considered in that conversation. it's cool looking at everybody and going, hey, we're in the D2 bracket. You list all the other names in that bracket. And you're like, yeah, we're one of those teams. That's a pretty cool feeling.
No, I like the bracket. I don't like your seed. That's my opinion on the bracket. I like it. Don't like the seed. I agree. If you were an 8 seed, it'd be a whole lot better off. I got the playoff beard going for this Friday's game. PrepSportsNetworks.com. Stephen Hodges and I will be on the air live from Lemoore High School between the Tigers and the Royals. We'll catch you then. Have a great time.